to start recording. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and begin the presentation here. And we've got about 10 slides or so to get through. I'll try to get through them relatively quickly. And again, we'll save as much time as is needed at the end of the presentation to discuss any specific questions that folks on the call may have. So thank you for joining us. Today, I'm here to talk about the Prime Fund, Pandemic Relief for an Innovative Maine Economy. This program is currently open, and the application deadline right now is the 11:59 p.m. on Friday, August the 30th. So about a month away. Some basic background on this funding opportunity. These are federal funds that were delivered to Maine through the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. The Maine state legislature passed a spending plan for these funds in July of 2021. That spending plan has become known as the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan. There were 100 different spending initiatives in that plan. There's a website, maine.gov/jobs plan, which lists out all the different funding initiatives that have been deployed over the past 2 years. There are still some funding opportunities available. This Prime Fund is just one of them. And in addition to the ARPA plan, to the ARPA federal funding, there are some other federal funding initiatives that were passed over the last couple of years, including the bipartisan infrastructure bill. There are other funding programs that are coming online at the state level with that money as well. So there's a lot of different funding initiatives to try to keep track of. Here at MTI, we do our best to keep apprised of currently available opportunities and trying to make those available, the information available to our constituents. And you can get on the MTI email list for updates. I believe there's also email updates you can sign up for through these maine.gov websites as well. A little more background specifically on Prime 2. So this MTI has been tasked over these past couple of years deploying a number of different initiatives from the ARPA, the ARPA federal funding, the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan. We've delivered funds to the forestry industry, to the seafood industry. We've delivered an initial round of Prime and another round for innovation ecosystem organizations. This will be our last round of Prime funding. We have $7 million left to deploy. A big part of the goal here for the Prime round 2 is to try to deliver some of these funds to companies here in Maine that have not yet received other pandemic recovery funding or other funds from MTI in the past. So there's a concerted effort here to try to get companies that are new to MTI into the pool of applicants. For the Prime Fund, as I said, there's $7 million available. We expect that we will receive hundreds of applications requesting funds far in excess of that $7 million that we have to deploy. So we expect that the majority of applicants will not be selected for funding. Individual awards will not exceed $250,000. It's possible that the maximum award amount will be smaller than $250,000. That all depends on how many applications we get and how competitive each of those applications are. As I mentioned, the application deadline for Prime Round 2 is the end of August, and we are hoping to be able to complete all the reviews within the month of September and announce award decisions sometime during the month of October. And again, the specific date is somewhat tentative, very much dependent upon how many applications we actually end up receiving. So, some of the key points regarding eligibility for this round of Prime funding. You have to have a significant presence in Maine, and/or you have to have clear plans to establish a more significant presence in Maine utilizing these funds. The funds must be expended by the end of March 2026. And that's a rule from the federal legislation that created this funding opportunity. So these are projects that need to be completed over the next year and a half or so. The awardees must match the award at least 1-to-1 with cash invested towards the proposed project efforts. There are annual reporting requirements required, and the federal government also requires that any business receiving these funds has a unique entity ID, which can be obtained free of charge through the federal website www.sam.gov. This is something that's been a requirement for all of these funding programs we've been deploying over the last couple of years in the wake of the pandemic. So hopefully most folks that are tuning into this opportunity are already registered with the UEID, but if not, you can register one today. And if you have any questions, we've got some support on our website as well. And the business must, of course, be in good standing with Maine's corporate registry as well. The scoring rubric for these applications, most of the scoring is going to be based around what the proposed use of funds is and how that's going to help the business grow stronger in the wake of the COVID pandemic and position the company to achieve economic growth here in Maine moving forward. We certainly take into account the strength of the team and the plan and the market opportunity to drive that the economic impact that we're looking to achieve with these investments. As I mentioned, we are working to deploy these funds to businesses that have not yet received pandemic recovery funding, as well as companies that have not previously received MTI funding. So we're really trying to broaden the tent of companies that can receive MTI support. And we're certainly trying to do that geographically throughout all 16 counties of the state, as well as working to get more applications from some of those businesses that may be led by more underserved demographics. So these are all things that we're going to be taking into account with the scoring. As far as the application process is concerned, there are a couple primary steps. I'm not going to go through each of the steps here, but at a high level, the first thing to do is to go to the MTI website, which we're going to pull that up right now. And most of you should be familiar with this screen, just because if you're signed up for this Zoom session, you had to do that here on our webpage, on our website. So we've got the basic details of the Prime program here. We've also got an FAQs page. There's also 2 more Zoom sessions coming up in August that you can sign up for if you have additional questions. We lay out all of the stuff I've talked about on these prior slides, when the applications are due, who's eligible, how much funding can you request, and what's the scoring. Then we also have a section here about how to apply for the Prime funds. We have a brief video here that's recorded. It's a couple minutes long, and it's really specifically helping you kind of navigate the online application process. We'll do a brief version of that now on this on the Zoom call here. But at a high level, the first step is to get this information from the website. There's an application Word document. You're also going to need a blank W-9 form. And you're also going to need a blank template of our grant application agreement. So these are 3 things that you're going to want to click on and download to your computer. Additionally, you're going to need some financial information, a current balance sheet for the business, historical financial statements, your income statement or your profit and loss statement for the last 2 years and the current year to date, presuming that your business has been in business that long. If you're a newer business, that's fine. You'll just only have the financial history that exists. So those are the key things, the key pieces of information you're going to need to put together before you even start thinking about our online application portal. Now, I will take us over to the application Word document, which some of you may have already downloaded. If you haven't, this is what it looks like. Again, you can just click on the top left here, File, Save As, to save a copy of this to your computer. And you can literally use this Word document to compose your application responses. So this first page is just the instructions how to apply. Uh, it also includes the hyperlink to the online application portal, which again, we'll follow that in a moment. Before we go there, I want to go through the questions in the application itself. So, the first section asks, how has the pandemic negatively impacted your business? How is your business connected to one of MTI's technology sectors? This is another legal requirement of Maine state legislature. They specified that for this prime fund, applicants are going to need to demonstrate that they are connected to one of Maine's 7 targeted technology sectors. There's information about those sectors on our website. We ask whether you've received prior MTI funding, and of course, we'll check that on our side. Then section 2 really gets into the meat of the proposal, asking you how much funding you're requesting, how much matching funds you're bringing to the table, and then more specifically, what are you going to do with these funds, and how is this going to help you have a stronger business moving forward? And then lastly, the last section asks about some, key pieces of information about the business, who owns the business, and if you have any, we ask for some basic information about the team, as well as some high level projections for your profit and loss for this year and next. So those are the 3 sections of the application Word document. So you type all your answers up for that. You get all your other information in order. As I mentioned, you're going to need a W-9 form for your business's tax information. You're also going to need a signed copy of this grant application agreement, and this is a few pages. These are spells out, kind of the basic expectations of all applicants for this federal funding. There are some strings attached to the federal funding, some rules you have to abide by. So you can fill in your business name here after you've had a chance to review this. You can you can print out a copy of this and sign it and scan it. And then you can include that with your electronic files when you go to the online application portal, which you access by following this link right here. And I'll click on that. And usually this website moves somewhat slowly. This is our online application that we work with as best we can. You will need a email address for your username, and then you create a password to log in to the online application portal. If this is your first time applying for MTI funding, you click on this new applicant link, and it'll allow you to set up a password. Be sure you're using an email address that you check regularly, because we are going to be utilizing this email address to contact you with all funding decisions and all other updates regarding the Prime program. So be sure to use an active email address, and when you log in, you'll get to the online page. I do see we've got a few questions, and I'll hold those till the end. I'm almost through the slides here, so bear with me as I get through these. And again, sometimes this online application site responds somewhat slowly, and we'll wait for a moment more. So as you can see, there's a few tabs up top here. The online form, there's a significant amount of information you have to put in. Obviously, the business contact information, the UEID number. We ask for some demographic data. We also ask about the current number of jobs here in Maine, some specific questions about how the level of compensation provided to the existing employees. This upload documents tab is where you actually upload the files that you've collected and saved. So that application Word document, your W-9, your financials. These are all things that you have to upload into the system. And then once you're done, there's a disclosures, a brief disclosure on MTI, and we treat how we treat applicants' application information with our confidentiality agreements. So once you've completed all of these sections of the application, you can submit your application. If there's anything that you haven't filled in, the online form will tell you that you haven't yet completed all of the required fields, and that's what it's doing right here. So then you have the opportunity to review and get everything filled out before you submit through the online portal. Once you are able to successfully complete the online application form, you will get an email from our system confirming that you have successfully completed the online application submission. Sometimes folks will save a partially complete online application form. And in that case, you'll get a different email notification from our online system. That email will specify you've saved an application, but it is not yet complete. And just as a reminder, everyone, to be considered for this funding opportunity, you will have to complete the online application process by 11:59 on Friday, August 30th, to be able to be considered for the funding opportunity. So those are the basics of the application process. I'll go back to the slides here. So once all the applications come in at the application deadline, as I mentioned, we'll work on reviewing them through the month of September. We'll do our best to get the award decisions made within the month of October and make sure all applicants are notified via that email address you use for the online application. Once you're awarded, there will be an award contract to be executed with MTI. As I mentioned, there are some strings attached, both federal and state requirements for receiving these funds. So that'll be worked out once awardees are selected. And again, the UEID, Unique Entity Identification Number, is a requirement to receive these funds. If you haven't already registered, you can at sam.gov. We also have an instructional video on how to sign up to get a UEID on our website. Additionally, on the website, we do have some other support. If you if you need, what happens if I need help? Here we go. As I said, we have an FAQs page here on the website. We do have a couple more Zoom meetings scheduled for August. And we also have an email address, arpagrants@maintechnology.org. And we try to respond to all those requests within a day or so. So those are the most critical pieces of information I wanted to get across in the presentation here. Let me go ahead and look through the Q&A in the online chat here, and I'll try to go through them. So we have an attendee asking, should we not apply if we have already received Prime 1? You are allowed to apply for this funding, whether you've received previous funds or not. But the way our scoring is set up, the companies that have not received any prior MTI funding will get some additional points. So you wouldn't receive those additional points if you've already received MTI funding, but that doesn't preclude you from applying. We have, let's see. What does MTI mean by female or minority led? The CEO only, or does it include the management team? Yeah, it includes the management team. I think there's some amount of flexibility there just because a lot of companies are structured somewhat differently, particularly a startup. So I think generally it's considered 50% or more of the management team is female or minority led. I see the addition points allocated for female or minority led, but you are not including veterans. We do actually also ask about veteran-owned businesses as well. And in addition to the way looks like the points, primarily the points are focused on achieving some additional geographic diversity, as well as supporting other underserved entrepreneurs. So that might be a good question for me to follow up with our team on to confirm what consideration there might be for veteran-owned businesses as well. Let's see. Can you discuss what it means to be connected to a technology sector? So we have the 7 technology sectors, and I will bring them up on the screen. So they are, as you can see them here, biotechnology, composites and advanced materials, environmental technologies, forest products and agriculture, information technology and marine technology and aquaculture, and precision manufacturing. So those are the 7 technology sectors, particularly the last two, or I'm sorry, information technology and precision manufacturing. These are relatively broad categories. Information technology is basically any company that's working with software products. Precision manufacturing, obviously, any sort of manufacturing operations could conceivably make a case for being connected to precision manufacturing. Again, there's a little bit of nuance there. It really kind of depends on what the business is. Some companies, their customer, their market might be connected to one of these industries, one of these sectors, and or whatever innovation it is that a company is designing may be connected to one of the sectors. So there's some room for interpretation there, and that's why we ask a question about it in the application Word document, specifically to give applicants a chance to explain how they're connected. So that'll be one of the questions that's considered by our reviewer team for each application. So next question. Okay, it says that we need to be A, recovering from negative impacts, or B, investing to build a healthier, strong business in Maine. Is it truly either, or do we need to be both? I think there's some amount of flexibility here. I think obviously we're a couple years removed from the pandemic. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that businesses have been impacted by the various effects of the pandemic, even things like, supply chain shortages and increased costs due to limited labor availability. There's really, as these last couple of years have played out, we've obviously kind of seen more ways in which the pandemic has affected the economy. So I think there's a willingness to be flexible there. And again, when it comes to what you're proposing to do with these prime funds, we're not expecting that you're going to use them to buy more face masks. I think at this point we're looking to use these funds to help companies, become stronger and more resilient, to be that much better, prepared to survive whatever challenges come next, whether it be another pandemic or some other challenges that we can't yet foresee. So speaking about the goals of the grant, I think that I've tried to lay that out again. The goals of this grant program are to help companies here in Maine within the 7 sectors strengthen their economic position, ideally grow and become more resilient in the wake of the pandemic. Let's see. Hi, will we receive copies of this presentation? We are recording this presentation, and we will be making the presentation available on the webpage. So if you go back to the Prime program page, if you go to the Zoom sessions, we've got our first session recording here, and then we'll put this session recording up as well. We've also got the FAQs as well as the details. Okay, will a copy of the award contract be available prior to August 30th? The award contract that will be sent to awardees won't be made available until after we've selected and identified the awardees. However, there is also an application agreement that you have to sign that I referred to. And this does speak to a lot of similar expectations that'll be required of awardees. So this provides a good kind of outline for what you can expect the award contract to look like. All right, let's see. Working through the questions here. Okay, how many points would we lose if we receive prime one? You wouldn't lose any points, but I think there are additional points given to companies that have not yet received any MTI funding of any kind, whether it was prime or another MTI grant program. And let me see here. Go back to that slide. There are up to 20 points available. So 20 points to companies that have not received previous MTI funding. All righty. Can you explain more details on the one-to-one matching funds from other grants or cash on hand? So with the cash match, ideally you'll be able to show on your balance sheet the cash in the bank for that you're proposing. So, that's the easiest way to be able to demonstrate that you have the cash match on hand. I think there is a willingness to try to have some flexibility there, but it kind of, like I said, that'll be another piece. The availability of matching funds will be another piece of the application review, and we'll try our best to validate that. As far as the source of the match, it's really pretty flexible. It could, if you've received another grant, it could conceivably be another grant that's satisfying the match. If it's, sales from from the first half of the year, that income you've brought in, it can be investment dollars as well. I think the source of the cash match is relatively flexible. Okay, when you say if you haven't received MTI funding, does that mean any MTI funding or just prime? Yes, it means any MTI funding. So if you've received any MTI funding previously, whether it was our core funding or whether it was another one of our COVID recovery plan programs, it's going to be considered as MTI funding. How far back would you like us to list our MTI funding? You don't have to list your MTI funding. We've got all that on hand. We do just ask the question in the application whether you have received any MTI funding or not. But we'll obviously be confirming that on our side of the review process. In section 1, negative impacts of COVID, do you check the boxes only, or does that section require narrative? Let's see here. It allows for both. So you could just check the boxes. I think preferably you're going to include some amount of written commentary here as well to just give a little more explanation of specifically how, whichever boxes you've checked here, a little more understanding of how the pandemic negatively impacted your business. I think we're looking for applicants to put some information in here, as well as the boxes are here just to kind of give some examples of the type of common types of negative impacts that companies experienced. Given that this is a very competitive process, does it make sense to apply when the company can only earn a max of 80 points? I'll completely that we're not we're not saying you can't apply by any means. I think we're generally tempering everyone's expectations. There's going to be far more applications received than we have funds available. So I think that for the most part, folks are going to have to, submitting an application, regardless of what your MTI history is, that you're going to have to be realistic about the fact that you might not get these funds. But that said, we're certainly encouraging folks to apply, and for particularly folks that haven't received MTI funding previously. Will you be providing a sample strong application as an example? I don't believe we have a sample application at this time. Okay, another question here. When you say geographic diversity, does that mean you're going to select only certain companies from certain counties? No. No, it's we're we're accepting applications from all 16 counties in Maine. There is some of the scoring. There is some additional points given to companies that are in particularly the census. The U.S. Census has identified particular census tracts that are identified as socially and economically disadvantaged. And there are SETI districts in all 16 counties of Maine, but you do receive some additional points for being in a SETI district. How does the number of jobs created, retained, increased revenues, and wage of jobs created into the scoring? That's a good question. I don't think that those are particularly impactful on the scoring by themselves. But I think just in terms of overall impact, the strength of the proposal will be higher if a company has a significant number of employees and they compensate those employees highly. Let's see here. Next question. Regarding the one-to-one matching for venture-backed software biz, can one-to-one matching be inclusive of seed round fundraising? For example, we pledge to fully match 1,000 from some committed seed raise, some from in-kind. So if you're proposing for your matching funds investment dollars, your proposal will be stronger if you've already received those investment dollars. If you're saying that your match is going to come from fundraising that you haven't yet completed, that's going to make your proposal weaker. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, that's part of the reason we're asking for the financial statements, including a current balance sheet, is so that we can validate the proposed cash match. All right, we're almost through the Q&A here. Let me see here. Feel free to keep adding more in as I go along. Can part of the grant funds be used to relocate team members to become Maine residents? I think you could conceivably use funds for that purpose. One thing that I'll say, a lot of the questions here, there's I'll draw a line between what's eligible to do with the funds versus what will make for a compelling proposal. And so, those are two different things. And, when it comes to the compelling proposals, again, it's really just going to kind of come down to how many applicants end up applying and how competitive they all are. How many total points are available? 100 points is the total amount. Is there a list of who received Prime 1 funds and what they used the money for? We do have a list of awardees. There's some basic information about all our prior awardees is public, and I believe those are listed on the website. As far as the specifics of their application proposals, that information is kept confidential. Although, there's usually some high level, there's like a project title included in the public information. And some of that information is also available through the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan webpage. Okay, here we go. Regarding match, does one-to-one match mean that if the proposed project is 50,000, the applicant should ask for 25K? Yes, that is the correct understanding. So if you have a $50,000 project, you can ask for prime funds to fund $25,000 of that, and the other $25,000 would need to be funded by the applicant, either through existing revenues, existing cash on hand, investor capital, other grant awards, something like that. Can you provide an example of in-kind and how to demonstrate? I would say the primary example of in-kind match would be a founder of a company who is not yet receiving like a regular paycheck. If it's an early stage company that has limited revenue or no revenue yet, the founder might not be getting a paycheck every week. So if that's the case and the founder isn't receiving weekly payment for their work, you can quantify that. You can select an hourly rate. We cap that hourly rate for calculating in-kind match at $50 an hour. And generally, the larger the funding request, the less in-kind match there should be. And generally speaking, the more cash match there is, the stronger the proposal will be. How do we know if we're in the census district? You can actually check on the census website. I think we have some information about that in one of our FAQs, but you can also email us, ARPA grants at maintechnology.org. You can email us about that as well. Can you touch on the privacy policy, how the applicant information is shared, how the ideas, concepts, or intellectual property is protected and or preserved? So yeah, so on MTI's website, we do have our confidentiality agreements and our conflict of interest agreements that all MTI staff, board members, and reviewers abide by. So again, the specifics of the information that you provide in your application Word document are not shared publicly. That's treated confidentially. The information that is public is the basic information about who's requesting these funds and who's receiving them. So we do, the company's, the legal name of the entity applying, the amount requested, the amount of matching funds. As well as we do ask for in the online application form, we ask you to provide a brief non-confidential summary of what you're proposing to do with the funds. And so it's, it's identified that that's non-confidential. So this is something that could conceivably be shared in program reporting because, as these are taxpayer dollars that we're deploying. So we do have to have some amount of visibility into who's receiving the funds and how they're being used. What is the earliest our grant could start? Well, so if the question is when can you expect to receive any grant funds that you're awarded? I would say realistically, you should plan to not receive any of these prime funds until January of 2025. I think we'll do our best to get the funds deployed sooner than that. But we've got to get through all the application reviews. Then we've got to notify all the awardees. We've got to get the award contract signed, make sure all of the requirements are being met. And at that point, we can transfer the funds to the awarded companies. So that will take some time. And again, to some degree, it depends on how many applicants there are. The more applicants and awardees, the longer that'll all take. If you're talking about when you can start using the funds, if you're able to front the money, you could start your project today, or your project could even be started already. And again, these are projects that we're, proposing to support the company getting stronger in the wake of the pandemic. So as much as possible, both the MTI funds and the matching funds for the prime fund application should sort of be forward looking, so as of today or, kind of starting as of the application deadline date are probably the most sensible places to start your timeline for the proposed project. All right, let's see. So a couple more questions here keep coming in, so I'll keep rolling through them. If you were to relocate team members from out of state, is that not negatively affecting the locally available workforce? It seems like real estate purchases is not main related. Could you clarify and confirm that these funds wouldn't be used to just hire up from out of state? Yeah, so the applications are asking you to specify how you're going to use the funds. And so we're going to have reviewers looking at all of these applications to make sure that's what being proposed is going to, help the business, increase revenues as well. So I think that's an interesting question, something that we could conceivably opine upon more at a later date. If you feel free to follow up on that question through our ARPA grants at maintechnology.org. All right, to increase the competitiveness of our proposal, is it better to ask for less than 250,000, or can we ask for 250,000 with the understanding that MTI may award us less than if our application is competitive? Yeah, so I mean, I think I would ask for the amount that you think you need to do what it is that you want to do. And as opposed to kind of trying to game the system, I'm not really going to speculate on that. But again, you just need to make sure you're adhering to all of the guidelines. You have to have at least one-to-one match. And you need to be clear about what you're using the money to do. So I think I would just ask for the amount that you actually need to do the project as opposed to just asking for the maximum amount. But that's completely up to you. For cash match, does it matter what the company is spending that cash on? Conceivably, the company should be spending the cash something in some way connected to what you're proposing to do with the prime funds. And again, it's really there's a lot of flexibility on what you can do with the prime funds. So similarly, there's a lot of flexibility as to what you can do with the cash match. I mean, it can be your operating costs, paying your existing employees to work on whatever project you're proposing to do. It's pretty flexible. Can a project be multifaceted, such as an acquisition of new technology and hiring new employees who may or may not be tied to the new technology? Yeah, I would say at a high level, yes, it can be multifaceted. And again, it's really there's one question as to whether or not what you're proposing is allowable, and then it's another question as to how competitive that's going to end up being, which again is difficult for me to speculate just because it all depends on how many applications we receive and the strength of all those proposals. Can the project be funding a key hire? That could conceivably be part of the project, yes. Let's see, can the funds include an out-of-state hire? So I don't think that would be nearly as compelling as an in-state hire. Generally speaking, the prime funds need to be used definitely to be funding operations that are occurring within the state of Maine. So if you're proposing to use prime funds to hire someone out of state, I think that's probably going to be less compelling than some of the other applications that might be otherwise equal, but proposing to make hires here in the state. Okay. So I think that's all the questions. Again, if you have any questions about the SETI districts and the census map, I don't have that up right now. So as opposed to trying to figure that out in real time, I would encourage you to email us, arpagrants@mainetechnology.org. And that is all of the information I have for you today. So let's see here. So one last reminder, we do have the email address, arpagrants@mainetechnology.org. We have 2 more Zoom sessions, which you can sign up for on the website, August 13th and August 27th. We'll keep updating the FAQs on our website as well as more questions come in. One last question that's come in here. Is there flexibility to adjust the budget after the project starts? I would say to a certain extent, there potentially could be some amount of flexibility, but I think that you're obviously going to put in your proposed use of funds in your application. When we get to the award contract, we're going to be confirming that you're using the funds. You're going to use the funds to do what you propose to do. So if that changes dramatically, it might impact your ability to keep the award. But I think that'll be a thing that we sort of deal with on a one-on-one, on a case-by-case basis once we get to the award contracting side of this in October. So I think that's all the questions we've got. I will stay on for another few minutes at least to allow anybody else to chime in. And I actually see there's a hand up here. I'm gonna bear with me for a second here. Let's see. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a moment. Okay, so I think that's all we've got. I'm going to stop recording.